If you went to secondary school in Malawi, it will not come as a surprise to you. One of the greatest writers in the country, he has published numerous poems, plays, and short stories. He has edited the Strides in English series. He's not only recognized in Malawi only, but also internationally. In 1989, his work featured in BBC collection of winning poetry, The Face of Vultures. And in 2005, he was awarded the UNESCO International Fund for the Promotion of Culture and Fellowship for Artists in Italy. In 2007, he was attached to University of Glasgow in Scotland, where he wrote Advanced English Language Skills Handbook. As if that's not enough, he's also the chief in Mzimba under Inkosi Mtwalo. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Bruce Zondiwe Mbano. Dr. Mbano, you are welcome to this episode.
Thank you.
You have recently published a book entitled Introduction to Literature, Prose and Poetry, in which you introduced literature to us by showcasing some of the poems that were written by some of your students in the class of creative writing course. You note that many of these pieces, you said, would have been described by Professor David Rubadiri as coming straight out of the fire. I'm really curious to know, what are you trying to mean with that phrase, coming straight out of the fire?
Thank you very much. This is a phrase that Professor Rubadiri used to wrote some poems that he found very urgent and truthful.
All right.
Perhaps you could understand it from analyzing the phrase straight from the fire. Something that comes straight from the fire, assume it is cooked, it is hot, it's ready to be eaten, and perhaps also as a warning, it can burn.
Yes, right.
So these poems are written and they are urgent and truthful, describing an urgent situation in the country. That's what he wanted to say.
Wow, very interesting.
You guys mentioned the late Professor David Rubadiri. For those who don't know him, he's the first Malawian poet to be internationally recognized. But if you are following our podcast, he was one of the Young Turks, the young nationalists that were involved in the cabinet crisis. One of the poems that he was very recognized by is African Thunderstorm.
African Thunderstorm, yes.
Can we listen to African Thunderstorm?
Okay.
An African thunderstorm. From the west, clouds came hurrying with the wind, turning sharply here and there, like a plague of locusts, whirling, tossing up things on its tail, like a madman chasing nothing. Pregnant clouds ride stately on its back, gathering to perch on hills like sinister dark wings. The wind whistles by and trees bend to let it pass. In the village, screams of delighted children toss and turn in the din of the whirling wind. Women, babies clinging on their backs, dart about in and out, madly. The wind whistles by whilst trees bend to let it pass. Clothes wave like tattered flags, flying off to expose dangling breasts. As jagged blinding flashes rumble, tremble, and crack amidst the smell of fired smoke and the pelting march of the storm.
Can you tell us what is this poem about, the African Thunderstorm?
The African Thunderstorm, one of the great poems written by a Malawian, which reached international levels, is first and foremost a poem about thunderstorm.
Yes, exactly. Sure.
And we know what happens in a thunderstorm, the urgency that it brings,
yes.
The running up and down of people, the wind, the fear, the concern that things will be destroyed, concerns that perhaps houses might be swept off. So the concerns and the anxiety that it brings is all captured in this. You can see a real African thunderstorm coming at the beginning of the rain. Now, poetry does not just talk at one level. So you see at an literal level that surely Professor Rubadiri is not just talking about a thunderstorm, talking about some phenomenon that came suddenly with some level of devastating force. And you can imagine he was a nationalist. Therefore, what comes to mind is the coming of the Western governments imposed on African people, how it came so forcefully. And you can see among the reaction of excitement by children who don't know what is happening, and the exploitation of the women. You can see death also coming in, because somewhere talks about smoking fire. The last part is talking about fire, smoke is talking about that must be gunfire. And also can see somewhere he's talking, comparing the clothes stuttering like flags.
Yeah,
you can see some government structure being entrenched, being built, being brought in against the people. So surely this poem at a deeper level is talking about the phenomenon of the coming governments from the West, uninvited, by force, against people who were not ready for them and yet have no choice.
That sounds like colonialism, eh? Definitely. But like, what struck me in this, I think it's an allegory. Can we say this is an allegory?
Well, the poem, as any piece of literature, works at a different level. Allegory works at 2 levels, but poems can work at different levels, even more than 2 levels. In short, we just say it is metaphorical. Any poem works at metaphorical level.
Yes, and you mentioned that the children seem to be delighted, but the women seem to be the main victims of this thunderstorm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think colonialism had a different bearing on women?
Yes, the women, as usual, can be victimized by powerful phenomena coming because of their responsibilities in the home, because of their responsibility be looking after children and the like. And sometimes they can be easily abused by this powerful entity. And so even the colonial government, women were abused.
Why did you include this poem in this collection?
Well, this was a classroom exercise. I taught a course in creative writing, and then it's from my training that when I teach a course, at the end I want to leave material.
Yes.
For that course, which people can use to teach, and the learners can use to read. So this is part of it that I left it. And so I used poetry from some of the leading writers like Professor Rubadiri, Professor Mdari, Professor Chimombo, and such people to give model of writing, encourage my children, my students in their writing. So you see, these were included because of that. And in fact, for the classroom, these were some of the initial poems that we discussed, analyzed for them to see how poetry works.
I see.
And they use these as models in their writing.